and not just confine it to diabetes, but we're talking about lifestyle diseases like hypertension, obesity, and of course, abnormal levels of cholesterol in youngsters. If I can get you, Dr. Khosla, on this point of fitness, because, if you look at recent reports, you have youngsters vulnerable to heart attacks, vulnerable to diabetes. I mean, it's an alarming number, the proportion of youngsters in that 130 million who are at immediate risk of diabetes. So do you think this whole concept of fitness, is it completely misconstrued when it comes to youngsters?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And actually, we are genuinely in a state of confusion and unable to manage our health, whether it's youngsters or whether it's the adults.
Absolutely.
Despite, I would call it an infodemic. There is so much information out there, like never before, but it's not translating into fitness or good health, and everyone's almost living in a state of fear or guilt. I'm not doing enough, or I'm not eating right, I'm not exercising those 30 minutes. And that fear or guilt and blaming ourselves for the conditions we are suffering. And I think today, the science that I practice and the science that needs to be practiced and is being done in the premier institutes of the world has made a paradigm shift in our approach to health and management of diseases. And as a practitioner, I may be sounding a little abstract, but as a practitioner, when I apply that, it is so gratifying, like I never felt as empowered today with the practice of nutrition when I look at the gut and I look at the gut microbiome, and when I address that versus just looking at nutrition.
So what are some of the key principles of a healthy lifestyle? Just taking a cue from what you said,
Yes.
What are some of those principles that you try to inculcate in that practice?
So diet, of course, is very vast, but if I have to give you a simple answer to this, that it's not only what you eat, it's how much you eat, it's how you eat it, it's when you eat, the concept of chrononutrition, and today I would say what you digest.
Yes.
So the entire ecosystem has changed. The food system has changed. Food was not what it used to be many, many years ago. It's all industrially produced.
Yes.
It's got additives. It's
Most
refined.
of it is packaged food,
It's packaged.
Even if it's diet food, it's
Yes.
still packaged.
Yes. So we keep blaming ourselves, but we don't even realize how much we have changed and how we have departed from our traditional food culture to what we are eating today. And I think that is the single most important cause which is leading to the kind of problems that we are seeing today.
I cannot not talk about food fads. And this is a rather contentious subject as well, because those who follow it really follow it. But what do you have to say about it? Because they're sort of the fastest ways of becoming healthy. You do away with grains, for example. You have an extremely protein-heavy diet, for example. But what do you have to say about food fads generally?
Well, they just reflect a state of helplessness among us. While we are all, like I said, literate about food, the point she made was that, how do you get yourself to eating healthy? How do you motivate yourself? How do you... So I'm just going to get that to answer that question. Basically, if we look at our gut microbiome, if it is in balance, we can literally junk-proof ourselves. We don't need to be, very... virtuous to be able to say that hum nahi khayenge, or wrestle with your willpower or any of those things.
Right.
And that I see in clinical practice and in a very short span of time. And the science behind it is very clear to us, because the neurotransmitters that we are talking about, the hormones which are involved with hunger and mood, because food is not only about nutrition, it's about happiness. All of those hormones and neurotransmitters, 80 to 90% are secreted in the gut.
Right.
And if we are eating food which is disrupting that, we are not going to be managing our appetites, our volume of food, cravings, etc., etc.
Which is why
So
abdominal
that
obesity is the most common when it comes to India.
Absolutely,
Right.
because the hormones go out of whack, and then there's a whole science around why even today, even if you're not fat or obese, you're still are carrying liver fat, you're getting diabetic,
Right.
and all of those conditions.
Right.
And the beauty is that when you intervene at the gut level, pehle kehte the, to answer Dr. Mittal's question, what is tradition? Let's go back
Yes.
to Hippocrates. Hippocrates, 2,500 years ago, said all diseases begin in the gut.
Absolutely.
So that's where it all, seems to be happening.
In one line, what is balanced diet?
That's a tough one, yes. But I would just like to say that if you have to focus on your diet, focus on getting appropriate amount or good amount of protein, not excess, and not through supplements. Pair them with vegetables and fruits.
Okay.
Dedicate one meal to just vegetables and or fruits or / sprouts, which are protective. And of course, probiotics, prebiotics, all of that.
Right.
And the grain, the choice of the grain is a game changer.
And while
So
we're on the subject
how
of
much
choice,
of grain, how much of grain, the choice of grain, and when you have your grain will be according to you and your specific needs.
Right.
And there's a one-liner to that
Yeah.
in our traditional text, Jaisa an, Vaisa man, Jaisa an, Vaisa tan. So
Okay.
really, I think our
that's
ancestors knew
very
it better
well
than
put.
us.